Welcome to episode 2 of the Rebirth of You podcast, a podcast for midlife men who want to have a better life. That's it. That's what they want. How do I know this? Because most, if not all of my clients come to me with that request. And it may not be worded exactly the same way, but in essence, what they're all asking for is, how can I have a better life? How can I live better? There's some standard, there is some idea, they each have an idea in their mind of what better is. And most, if not all of them they're really clear about what they don't want their life to look like. They're really clear about the things that are present in their life today that they want to eliminate or remove. Some of those things could be, circumstances in their lives or emotions that they're feeling, that they want to be able to get past. But they all want something better. There's some standard, that causes them to believe that they are under living, and they're not living up to their fullest idea of themselves. So the thing is that as clear as they are about the things that they don't want, so often my clients are very vague about what it is that they do want. They're very vague about what a better life for them actually looks like. Like, what could it be? And, I spend a lot of time with them really getting crystal clear about what a better life is for them. We all have bought into a lot of the concepts and the ideas that have been presented to us for what we should want and what we should like. And, that is definitely one of the things that I work specifically with and on with all of my clients, to help them overcome, to help them understand what it is that they truly want, right? Are the desires and the things that they're seeking, are those actually the things that they want? Or are those the things that they think they should want or are supposed to want? So what I want to talk about today is really what I think are some of the elements that are necessary in order to live a better life and have a better life. And I'm going to go through them. So if you want to take some notes, this will be a good one to take some notes on, but it's a podcast, so you can always replay it. So I'm going to start off with how to have a better life. Number one, you have to be able to manage fear and failure. So what do I mean by that? Most of us spend a considerable amount of our time doing everything we can in our power to try to avoid fear, to try to avoid failure. And what I've found, what I've come to learn is that this is a waste of time. Not only is it a waste of time, it is counter to what you need to do in order to have a better life. You see, the thing is that fear and failure is a part of life. It is a part of the human experience. So anytime that we're spending trying to avoid it or get around it or resist it is wasted energy. It's counterproductive, and it actually keeps us from the life that we truly want. It keeps us from the things that we want to go after in life. It keeps us from taking the action required to achieve the goals that we have in our lives. So the thing that we have to actually do to have a better life is learn. We have to learn how to live with. We have to learn how to manage. We have to learn how to actually get comfortable with fear and failure, because they're not going anywhere. Fear, and I'm talking about, fear when the fear comes up in response to something that we want to do, in response to, maybe us making an offer for our product, or in response to doing a presentation, or in response to having a difficult but necessary conversation with someone that we love. When that fear comes up, we often feel like that fear is sending the signal for us to stop. But that fear is telling us to go. It's like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And we don't need the fear to go anywhere for us to do it. Fear is just an emotion, right? It's just an emotion. And our emotions are just generated by our thoughts. So when we're feeling that fear, it's because of what we're thinking about it. It's because of what we're making it mean, right? We're creating this fear for ourselves. And the thing about fear is that fear is not a problem. Fear is not always a problem to be solved. Fear is a signal. And in some instances, when you are truly in physical danger, fear is telling you something. It's telling you to run. It's telling you to get away. It's telling you to fight. So fear isn't bad. When it comes to putting yourself in emotional harm's way, fear is often the signal that just is telling you that you are on the right track. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, because in order for you to grow, you've got to go through this. So the idea that you're going to grow and have a better life and do that avoiding fear is just nonsensical. It's not going to happen. So we want to learn how to live with and manage, and as I mentioned, and actually get comfortable with fear and get comfortable with failure, right? Failure is a part of progress. Failure is a part of growth. So often we have like this fear about doing things, and so much of that is coming from this thought that we're supposed to do it right. Or this thought that we can't get it wrong. And it's the thought that's creating the fear. It's thought that's creating this fear of failure, when you're supposed to fail. Like, failure is just what happens on the path to success. It's just what happens on the path to growth. Anything that was created in this world, before it was created, it was believed to be impossible. And before it was created, the person that was working on it failed numerous times, countless times, before they achieved success. But it was their persistence. It was their acceptance of the fact that failure was going to be a byproduct of their achieving this that kept them going. They weren't trying to avoid it. They just saw it as a teacher, right? They learned along the way. It's like they tried it. It didn't work. Okay. This is just data. Let's look at why didn't it work? What didn't I do? There was some required action that wasn't taken that resulted in the failure. So now you just need to figure out, okay, what that required action was. And now you go do that required action and you keep trying until you get it. So now the number two thing that you've got to understand and get in order to have a better life is we've got to overcome anxiety and understanding that all anxiety is the fear of a feeling. Like, when we experience anxiety, we're experiencing anxiety because we are afraid of what a future event is going to cause us to feel, right? There's some undesirable future event that we're thinking about, and anxiety is just wasted energy. We're just wasting present energy on that future outcome, that unfavorable outcome in our mind. It hasn't happened, but it's in our mind. We feel it, right? And this kind of coincides with with the failure thing, right? Because we feel if we've got, a project, or there's a task, or there's something that we want to do, Like, I don't, I just started doing this podcast. I just started doing this. I'm not expecting to be perfect at doing podcast because I didn't do it before. Like, I'm just starting. So, so I can have anxiety about and create anxiety in my mind, about what it's going to mean if I'm not perfect at doing this. But that's a choice. Why would I choose to do that? Why would I choose to set this expectation for myself that I should be perfect at doing something that I've never done? Right? Like, that's just something, and we just have to recognize that anxiety is being produced based on how we're choosing to think about the thing that we're going to do. Right. And, when we focus on the unfavorable outcomes in the future, that's going to produce anxiety. That's how our brain works. And so nothing's gone wrong, but we just need to recognize it and notice it. And when we do, we can begin to actually take control over how we feel, right? We can actually begin to see the connection between how our thinking is actually is the thing that's producing the anxiety. It's not the thing that we're going to do. It is how we're choosing to think about that thing that's producing the anxiety. And we have control over that. We have say over that. We have say over how we think and what we choose to focus on and what we choose to make things mean in our lives. Third thing is we've just got to stop the victim mentality. We've got to stop the victim mindset. We've got to stop blaming everything and everyone and the world and the politics and the government and the corporations and all the things for why we don't have the life that we want, why we're not living the life that we want, right? We live in a world, and in our world, there are good things and there are bad things. It has always been that way. This is not a new concept. The world has always been this way, and the world is always going to be this way. And this idea that in order for us to have a better life, the world has to be perfect is just childish. It just is. We live in a universe that has a combination of good and bad things happening at any time, all the time. There might be another universe somewhere out there where only good things happen, but that's not the one that we live in. So we've got to stop blaming others. We've got to stop putting our feelings and our emotional state in the hands of other people. And we've got to stop telling ourselves that, well, this, because of what so-and-so said, that's why I'm not doing the thing I want to do, or that's why I'm not showing up the way I want to show up. No, we choose how we want to show up. There is no such thing as a default response to any event that occurs in our lives. Right? You go out to lunch to meet somebody and they don't show up. You still get to choose how you want to respond. You can allow that to ruin your day or not. You go out, you want to meet somebody for dinner, they don't show up. You can allow that to ruin the rest of your week or not. Your boss pulls you in, gives you some feedback about your performance. It's not feedback that you desire to hear. You can make that mean that, you need to find a new job or not. You can just see that as information, and you can use that information to actually improve and grow. You could see it as a way to get better. You can choose that or not, but understand you have a choice. You always have a choice in the matter. We all do. Number 4, creating confidence. Confidence is something that comes from inside. Confidence is something that comes from how we're choosing to think about ourselves and how we're choosing to think about our ability to go out and take action in the world to get what we want no matter what. When my clients come to me and, they tell me that they want to work on their self-confidence, right? They just feel like they don't have confidence. And I ask them, well, where do you think confidence comes from? Well, I guess it comes from practice. It comes from doing things. It comes from, having done things before. And I say, okay, well, so how do you get confidence, when it comes to doing something that you've never done? I'm like, you can't go look in the past for evidence to give you confidence when you've never done the thing before. It's not there in your past. So how do you do that? And this is how I help them see that confidence is not something that just comes from, the fact that you've done it before or done that thing before. Confidence comes from how you see yourself. And confidence comes from, your ability to actually look into the future and see the positive outcome, right? Like we're inherently designed to do this. Like we have an imagination. Our imagination is a skill. It is like a muscle. It needs to be developed. It needs to be maintained. What's happened is that over time, we've just forgotten how to use it. When we're children, it's natural. It's inherent. It is at the forefront of how we live our lives. We create the experience in our world as children every day through our imagination, through play. It's just what we do. We see the future, and the future is always better. It's bright. It's open. When we're young, we think from our future. When we're young, we are always looking ahead. We see, we live from that place. We live from what we're going to do. We always have something to look forward to, right? And so, we can create confidence in our ability to do things that we haven't done before using our minds. How we choose to think about ourselves, how we choose to think about our ability to just take on actions and do things without stopping until we get the result that we want. Number 5, emotional adulthood is something that we've got to figure out in order to have a better life. And what do I mean by emotional adulthood? Emotional adulthood is when we own where we are. We own the truth about where we are. We own our feelings. We own our thinking, right? Because we're the ones that are having them. We're the ones that are having the feelings. We don't put our feelings or the thoughts that we're having about ourselves on other people or other things. We don't blame other people for the feelings or the emotions that we're experiencing at any given time. When we're emotional adults, no one is making us feel any way. We're feeling how we're feeling, and if we don't want to feel that way, then we're the ones that have control over that. When we're emotional adults, we don't put our emotional lives in the hands of other people and other things. We own it, and we own all of it. And the beautiful thing is that if we own it, and we take responsibility for it, then we can change it, right? If we're not feeling the way we want to feel, we can do something about that. We don't have to wait for some event to occur, or we don't have to wait for other adults to behave in the way that we want them to behave in order for us to feel how we want to feel, right? Because when we're emotional adults, we know that we can't control other adults. Most of the time we have a hard time controlling ourselves. So this idea that we can actually control other people and then we're going to make how they behave a condition on our own feelings and our own happiness is crazy. Number 6, we have to learn how to manage our thoughts. And what do I mean by that? Managing our thoughts really comes down to becoming aware of the thoughts that are running through our brain, the thoughts that are thinking, all the sentences and phrases and the dialogue that's happening in our brain all the time. And becoming aware not only that it's going on, but understanding the truth that is everything that we think, just because we think it doesn't mean it's true. And we don't have to buy in. We don't have to go along for the ride with every thought that pops up in our brain, right? We don't have to just be on autopilot and automatically respond to every thought that pops up and just unconsciously go for the ride. We can, if we choose to, notice the thoughts that are running through our brain. Notice the thoughts that are driving the emotions that we're feeling. And notice what actions those feelings are producing, and look at the results that are being created in our life. Like, this is what thought management looks like. This is what thought management is, right? And thought management isn't about just thinking positive thoughts all the time. Thought management is actually understanding that the circumstances that happen in our world, that circumstances that are going on in our lives, are all neutral, and nothing has meaning until we give it meaning. And how we give things meaning is through our thoughts. It's like what we choose to make things mean. And so thought management is just understanding that. And it doesn't mean that we just automatically just say, oh, well, we're just going to choose to think positive thoughts all the time, because the reality is that our human experience isn't all positive. Thought management is just understanding what's driving the feelings and actions and results in our lives, and understanding that those are all always a product of our thoughts, and just noticing that. And also noticing that just because these thoughts are going through our mind, we don't have to go for the ride. We don't have to be hijacked by them. And we can also understand that every thought and emotion is not something that we have to solve for. Like, sometimes when we're feeling sad about something, it's not a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem. There are things that happen in the world that I want to feel sad about. I don't want to feel positive about. When my father passed away, I didn't want to feel positive about that. But I also wanted to feel it. I wanted to feel it. I didn't want to resist it. I didn't want to run away from it. I didn't want to pretend it wasn't happening. I didn't want to judge myself for feeling how I felt. Right? And this is what thought management looks like. It's understanding that you are not what you think, and you can objectively look at the words and the sentences that are going on in your brain, and you can just watch them, and you can see them, and you can notice them, and you can get curious about them, and get curious about, why do I have a tendency to go here? Why do I have a tendency to focus on this? And just get curious about that. And there's no need to run to and run away from it. There's no need to run to a better thought or run to a better emotion. Now you can. And when you want to accomplish things in your life, this is where we work on identifying, okay, what are the thoughts and emotions that are required in order for you to do and produce the things that you want in your life. We do that. But what I also teach you is, let's not just run from this negative emotion or run from this thought that's coming up. Let's understand what's going on there, and let's be with it for a little bit and spend some time there so that we can actually diffuse it, so that we can actually, reduce the meaning that you are giving it right now. Because sometimes you're giving these thoughts and these negative emotions so much meaning in your life that it becomes overpowering and it's taking up all this space. And what I want you to do is get to a place to where you can have that thought and it's not going to trigger the same emotion. And if it does, it's not going to be as intense. And then you can understand that emotion can be there and you can still go on with your life. That emotion can be there and you can still create. That anxiety can be there and you can still have the conversation, because you understand that anxiety is not going to kill you. And when you understand that you can feel any emotion, right? Because all of the emotions are part of the human experience. And in order to live your fullest life, you've got to be open and willing to feel and live the entire human experience. You got to be open and willing to feel every emotion. And when you are willing to feel every emotion, there's nothing you can't do. Number 7, you've got to embrace and own your agency to solve all of your problems, right? No one is coming to save you. No one. Like, we are here and we have everything that we need to solve our problems and survive. And what I mean by that is, that doesn't mean that you don't go out and seek help. That doesn't mean you don't seek assistance. That doesn't mean you don't go out and seek expertise. But what it does mean is that you're not going to sit back and wait for the circumstances in the world to change and become perfect before you step out and do the thing that you want to do. You're not going to wait for, your wife to get better before you choose to be the man you want to be. You're not going to wait for your children to be perfect in order for you to call yourself a good father. Right? You own that. And most of the things that we call problems in our lives are not problems. Most of the things that we call problems in our lives are just problems in our mind. Like, our world is often worse in our minds than it is in reality, because we are spending so much time crafting such an intricate story of problems and negativity and things that have gone wrong. And it's no wonder that we feel the way we do. But we just have to understand, and what I want everyone to understand is that you have to own, you are your solution. We are always our solution. And what I mean by that is that we are always the ones that are going to have to do the work in order to create the experience that we want to create for ourselves. No one's going to come in and do that. And it's no one else's responsibility to do that. It's ours. So those are the 7, and these are what I believe are the 7 things that you have to do and embrace and understand and know and get really, 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 really good at in order to have a better life. We've spent so much time in our lives practicing the thinking, the feelings, and the actions necessary to produce the life that we have. And what I'm telling you is that these are the things that you have to practice in order to produce the better life that you want. And that better life is yours, and it's available for you. We just have to roll up our sleeves and do the work. That's it, my guys. Have a great day. If you want to get some help doing this, if you want to go a little bit deeper, look me up on my site. It's DuaneLeckie.com/consult. Again, that's DuaneLeckie.com/consult. There you can sign up for a free consult with me where we'll go deeper. We'll actually do some coaching, and we'll talk about how you can go deeper into this work. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I look forward to the next time. Have a great day.